In favor?
Aye.
I'd like to, before we begin our quote review of the comprehensive plan, we have had attorney-client discussions regarding a specific employee matter, and in light of those discussions, I would like to make a recommendation that it was, I'll make a motion that for recommendation of council, I'd like to move that the board engage the services of an independent investigator for an employee matter. Do I have a second for that motion?
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion?
No?
I'll take a roll call vote. How do you vote, Trustee Setzer?
Aye.
Trustee Galusha?
Aye.
Trustee Lanfair, aye. Thank you. Okay. So then the next thing that we were going to talk about is comprehensive plan.
Real quick
Go
before
ahead.
we get into that. One, do you mind if I sit in the other room and I'll take notes from the tape and everything for the meeting? Or do you need me in here tonight for your discussion?
The only thing I think is we have to make some sort of official record if we make any changes
If you make it on
on the
the
comprehensive plan. I think we need to have that
we'll
note.
put it into notes. I just,
And there are just a couple. I mean, I have two. Do you want me to start with those? And then you can go in the other room?
okay, that's fine.
I know you want to get those.
I want to keep working on minutes, but I also wanted to inform the board, I'm going to be out of the office next week. I'm going to take a vacation next week.
Okay.
Okay, and if possible, if you guys can look at the calendar, because I have a feeling you're going to be scheduling more meetings.
Okay.
Am I right on that thought?
For code, didn't we?
That's a good possibility.
Yeah.
Our public hearing for the comp plan
And the code
approved, yes.
is it starts September 10th.
I thought we had to do this one first.
Yes, you do, but I think you're doing them both at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you're doing the 10th and they'll carry through to the 24th. So I didn't know if you're going to schedule additional special meetings. So I was hoping to get those on the calendar
Right.
if the board, I mean, we can wait for Trustee Key. I just want to, if you guys.
Right. So do we
At
have
some
one?
We have one on the 13th.
We had a regular meeting scheduled for the 13th, we moved that to the
Right,
20th.
we didn't have a code review next week, which is the,
We don't have anything scheduled for next week, and outside of the regular move meeting from the 13th, I just left that kind of open still, so I don't know what the board wants to do.
So what you're asking, if you're going to be gone next week, you need to know now if we're going to plan anything for next week that you need to get on.
Right, well, there's a 3-main notice requirement, plus I have to see if I can get someone to come in and take your notes.
Okay.
So I'm just trying to schedule them up a little bit. So as the room's getting, we have planning board fighting us for it too.
I know, they have a bunch of meetings.
They do.
The last time that Bob spoke of it, he said we were waiting for the information from the planning and zoning board so that we could review it all at one time. And then Molly said, no, you might want to get a jump on that and start reviewing it as you get it,
Right.
as you receive it. And we haven't received anything yet. So in anticipation of receiving something, maybe we should schedule something for next Tuesday.
Just so I can get something, you know, because I hate to see you trying to get a meeting
Yes,
together.
trying to show, because we can cancel it, we can always cancel it if that comes in.
And I have the first Tuesday of the month, I have my review my Rochester meeting, same night. So Tuesday, I have a meeting from 6 to 8, but if we could do, I could do Monday, I could do Wednesday, Thursday, I could do any other day.
Yeah, Wednesday's not good, Monday they have architectural review, like
Yeah,
MEHP.
I don't have my phone.
If 3 of us can well, I could come, if we did it at 5, I could at least come for an hour. But
That seems, I think that seems fair. I think let's proceed with
Can't
that.
wait for Tuesday.
And you can't do Tuesday.
At all.
I do Monday.
Okay.
Okay, Monday.
Let me get my head so I have the dates.
Yeah, we proceed, because what we could do is we could exit the room before 7 o'clock. so that HPV can meet.
Okay,
Yeah.
that seems fair. So Monday,
Okay, so you can't do Tuesday.
No,
well, we know 3 of us can do Monday, and that's all dependent upon whether whether we get anything back from the planning board that we can.
I can't walk today. Walk with feet. Sorry to put pressure on the board, I just wanted to.
No, you're keeping us.
Tuesday, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so APRB is meeting at 7 o'clock.
Right. We could meet from 5 to 6:30.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's do that.
All right, so you'll be,
Monday, 5 to 6:30, Frank.
And then if we have to cancel because we don't have,
Right.
how much, can you do that?
We can do that on
We can-
Friday.
you can do it up to Friday, let me know. I will see what I can do for a secretary for the board,
Okay.
because I think Joanne's going to be at late next week, and Linda's tough, Mary, tough, so you might be on your own for no's.
So we're doing 5 to 6, or
Right.
that's-
5 to 6:30.
Monday, August 5th, 5 to 6:30.
Right.
And I'm just gonna call that a code review.
Yes.
I will get that.
What I am going to anticipate is that we will not be taking any votes for any changes.
Right.
So I think maybe what we'll do is make a list of potential changes that we're discussing. We just won't take any action, because we've not going to take enough steps.
Okay, at least get that on the thing, if you come up with a meeting that week for the following, if you want to, you write down your schedule for the 13th on the calendar. Do you want me to keep you on the calendar and move it to like,
That's our regular trustee meeting.
well,
wanna do a
we
code
moved it to the
before?
20th. You want me to make that 13th like a code review and do 5 to 7, or
Oh, okay.
do you want to still keep that open?
Yes,
What's that date?
because we're going to be ready on the
Oh,
13th.
what's the date?
August
I mean,
13th.
24th, the last meeting in August. We are going to have to be prepared to take votes on changes that we wish to make to this document and also to the code in order to stay on track.
So if Dorothy is out and we do want to take a vote, we can, we just have to make sure one of us takes.
Right, make sure,
records.
make sure the recorder is recording.
Okay.
Preferably you both.
So we still have the board meeting on the 13th?
We'll have a code review on the 13th.
Code review on the 13th. Okay. 5:30, 5.
Which does the board prefer, 5 or
I
5:30?
think isn't, 13? I can do either.
Whatever the board tells
Okay,
you.
5:30,
5:30, the 13th?
yes.
5:30 to 7?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. That'll get those on the calendar, and at that point, we can discuss whatever else the board wants.
And I think Bob is Bob on the 13th, or is that later? When is Bob? Okay, I don't remember. There was a reason we changed it to the 20th, and I can't remember why, but.
I think there was a couple reasons, but I can't.
Okay, great, so we've got 5:30 to 7 on August 13th.
And, okay, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Okay. Now, on a page, this is just a minor thing, but I think we have to record it somehow. Page 59, there is a typo, small one. It says, land use is land. We just have to take out the extra land. How land is land used?
How land is land used?
Yeah, so we just need to, I will make a motion that we amend it to read, how land is used. Do I have a second to that?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that is a change that's duly noted in the comp plan. Again, on page 66, minor again, there is an accent mark missing over the gentleman's name who is the architect, the urban architect. 66.
Andre?
yeah, Andre, where is he?
He's right.
Andre, there should be an accent over the E, Andre.
Good catch,
I don't think that changes the spirit of what was written,
I
so I don't think we need a motion for that, that's just a typo that we're fixing.
Can we write on the next page, I have a typo.
You have one too?
Yeah, on page 67, see, 1, 2, 3, 4th bullet down, it says town and village of PI, capitalize the I, and Pittsburgh should just be a lowercase. Does that make sense? You want me to repeat that? So page 67, actually, I'm sorry, it's the third bullet.
Third bullet,
Yeah, town and village of
Oh,
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh,
period,
yeah.
now, yeah.
the I is capitalized.
Where's,
See it right here, it says PI instead of P little
oh,
I.
yeah.
Used to call it little
And I did have a question on this page.
I. Okay, page 67.
67, same thing. It's got the supplemental plans and studies. And I had wondered if we should suggest that our complete streets policy is on this list, or because it's a policy, it shouldn't be on there. Because that's a guiding thing for all development, for everything listed here. But because it's a policy and not a plan or a study, I don't know.
Active transportation plan, you want
The very last, I was suggesting adding complete streets policy to this, but I don't know if that's appropriate given, because that's one of the guiding things that we use as a
so we
village.
can put the word policy with a question mark and come back to it.
Okay,
We will ask
Molly.
Molly.
Because she may have left that out because it's a policy and not a study.
Yeah, so we could ask Jeff.
Okay.
Did you have any typos or any questions for me regarding that? Okay, great. So, page 30. More did you say, where you wanted to start, Renee?
Yes, I wanted to, I wanted to make sure that, so as I looked through some of these, I couldn't tell sometimes whether the action item required village board action. So I just want to make sure that we're in agreement, and it's a pretty quick thing. If you just make sure that anything that says yes, just make sure we agree that it's a village board action, because we're going to have to carry these out after we watch this. So I want to make sure that we all agree they can vote, or that, whatever, yeah, village board action.
Did the consultant indicate that these were Board of Trustee actions?
Yes.
I'm interested in why they chose to use the word VB when we usually use the initials BOT.
Because I think in this, in the beginning
That's
of
how
the
it's referred
document, yeah,
Okay.
village board is, it's in the very beginning of it.
Okay, that makes sense.
What page are we on?
We went through the notes,
34.
yeah, 34, we're looking through this to make sure that we
Yep.
agree that all of these are that.
We'll be on here by 6:30, is that okay?
That's fine.
Get your minutes. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Thanks. Okay.
So does Dorothea need to take notes on this part?
Yeah, that's fine.
She does,
I
okay,
just said-
sorry.
We won't be long, we'll be done by
Okay,
6:30.
oh, sorry, that was,
That's okay.
okay, so,
So the action item, for instance,
was
Was indicated as,
34, yeah, so just make sure, provide a variety of housing options in close proximity to commercial and mixed-use zoning districts, 5-10 years. This does require village board action. Is this being accomplished by our current zoning code was the other thing I had.
Yes.
We may not need to address that second piece tonight. I want to know it from a future planning perspective, because some of these will already be able to say we're doing that by the current code, or maybe it's an opportunity, if it's not in there, to put it in the current code. So,
we're just working from my
Yeah.
memory, we do have it as part of our code.
okay, all right. I just meant in general, all of these.
Yeah, it's second floor
Yeah.
residential, and we also added it as, when we talked about canal, we changed it, canal commercial, we added that think she says changed that district, where Duncan Studios and in that little district there, we talked about that, and she said, indeed, our first go-around when we initially changed that and made it part of the canal district, that piece, we said that would be an allowed use in that commercial district, to have residential uses on the second floor, that none of the second floor apartments.
Because we have the time frame is 5 to 10 years, and we don't have to change this. I actually think it might not be an effective use of our time to determine tonight whether
I think they were just kind of giving
we're
it
to
a
satisfy.
general timeframe, that
Yeah.
would be the goal.
I just mainly wanted to make sure, yes, we agree that all of these were village board actions, because they're gonna then be on our plate as
Well,
soon as we adopt this.
I think it's a really good idea. I think it's a separate meeting.
Okay,
And this dovetails with what I sent around in email. They say in here, we'd love to have, one of their recommendations is a subcommittee where they kind of not hold us accountable, but help us
Work with
through.
us.
Yeah, work
Sure,
with us.
doing
That's a terrific idea.
okay,
And then, we have to explore all these yeses and then prioritize them.
right.
And I don't think we can accomplish that right now.
I agree with you on that
Yeah.
part. The thing I wanted to do tonight is just to make sure we agreed all of these were yeses. And Molly and John indicated they were yeses, and maybe we trust their vetting process since they worked with us.
And what's the harm if they're not?
I don't think there is. I just wanted to be thorough and
Right.
not half-assed.
Have you guys made all the changes that you wanted to make? You don't have to recap it for me, I'll get
The
it.
typos, we would only address typos.
Okay.
Only typos.
And,
Yeah.
With regards to number one, I think it's very vague. Provide a variety of housing options. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by in close proximity to commercial and mixed-use districts? Does that mean R2 or R3 or R1? What does that mean? Where do we want to do that? And what do we want to do? This is very vague.
But we're already doing that we're doing it in our current code. We changed some of our districts already. We've changed some of what they're talking about already, like what Lily was mentioning earlier. So,
I'm trying to read this and see if,
And I'm going to bring up something that
That bothered you?
well, page 33, the objectives, it says maintain the desirability of village neighborhoods, provide a variety of housing options for residents of all ages and incomes. Well, that's a wonderful idea. It's a wonderful idea. But the only way you're going to do that effectively is to put in rent controls. I mean, you could provide as many options as possible, but the property owner is going to charge the rental rate that he's going to charge, and you've got no control over that. So that's a great idea, but
You may not be able to control it.
where are you going with that? Exactly.
The first part of that sentence, though, is something we can control pretty easily. Maintain the desirability of village neighborhoods. We can affect that. We can't control it, but we can affect it through lighting and good maintenance of roads and
I agree.
yeah,
Sure.
paving and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
There is a typo on this page, by the way. Did you guys get one?
no, we didn't.
Okay.
33, where
It's
is
in
it?
objectives on D,
Okay.
page 33. Objectives D, it should be to the village, not in the village. Attract and retain local businesses, startups, and enterprises to the village. You don't attract in, you attract
Okay,
to.
yep, got it.
Easy one. Frank, it's a good point, but as a guiding principle, I think it's important. You know, we're trying, one of our objectives is to welcome all income types.
Sure.
Yeah, but whether we can accomplish that, who knows?
But what do you mean by close proximity to commercial and mixed zoning districts? Are you zeroing in on a certain part of the village? Is that what they're saying?
I think they're all
So you're back on page
34.
34, okay.
I mean,
I think it's just in general, exploring that, and that's why the time frame is so big, because I think that may change over time. It may, like, I mean, these are things that the comprehensive plan and the community input indicated were desirable and important as a community. So I don't feel like I want to change the spirit of that. And it would require village board action, which would mean it would have to go through everything that we normally already do. But this came out of the community and the committee's input. And this is what,
Reflected.
yeah, it's reflective, and we can agree, agree or disagree personally, but I would feel hesitant to change some of these.
Spirit of what's being written.
Right.
Yes.
That's my personal opinion.
well, I just think it needs a lot more definition before we could even make any decision. It just,
Right.
it's very vague.
They're not, and it's vague on purpose to allow some wiggle room in determining where it would be most appropriate.
sorry.
I think.
I have a question for the board, since we're on that page. I know we're
33?
bouncing back,
Okay.
but since we're on page 33. Under objectives, this is just a question to think about, and I wanted to ask the consultants. Is it correct to say that the objective of the village is to provide, they're not providing a variety of housing options, they're providing the opportunity, but they're not
Right,
providing the housing.
so is it more about enabling rather than
Yeah, so I just started
providing?
asking about the
Yeah.
wording of maybe that
Provide an
shouldn't change.
opportunity is what you're saying, the wording. You want to just change?
Well, I think I'd like to think it out a little bit and ask, Molly and John, how best to convey what really is being said. And that is to create an environment or the opportunity by our zoning, which then allows for a variety of housing. We're not providing the housing. It's just sort of a clarification of what's.
Yeah, there's a lot of that language in there, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that we're doing something that we're not able really to do.
Right.
Okay,
Can I say
so that was all I had for that one.
something?
Thanks, Joe.
Dave Marshall wrote a great letter, and that was one of his big paragraphs too, was about that word.
yeah.
Oh,
And
did he send it to your board, Joe?
he brought it to when we had the June 24th hearing,
Yeah.
and he stood up and he read part of it, but he brought it and handed it out.
Okay.
And he's greatly concerned about the word choices. To provide a variety of house options may require the village to create through zoning provisions opportunities for below market rate housing options, which is where I think Frank was going, right? No? Allow for far more single to multifamily conversions and put a legal burden on the village to provide something that is not immediately evident today. Instead of provide, consider support.
Support, good. I'm good with support.
Would that be?
Enable,
Provide an
Encourage.
encourage?
encourage, yeah.
So is that something that will come out of a, I don't know what to call it, a recommendation or from the comp plan committee or from the PCBA?
I don't know where the comp plan committee is. I mean, I went through this and I had typos and stuff, but I don't know when we're meeting and when we get stuff.
Was it addressed to your committee, the email? What was it, who was it,
You
to whom
provided
was it
a
addressed?
public meeting.
Yeah,
for the
do you
comp
want
plan.
this letter from Dave?
And John and Molly have the letter as well.
Oh, they have it? Oh, then they have it, so we'll just reference it that way.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll make a note to reference an email from,
David Marshall, although we don't want them to take the whole thing and
No.
incorporate it necessarily.
we'd like to talk about it.
We're talking about this support, or the wording around the sentence, provide a variety of housing options.
Let's just change the word.
To
What,
support
Sure.
or encourage,
what do you think, Lily?
Yeah, to it.
because it seems, I don't know that we need to go back and forth with them if we soften the language to say what the spirit of what we're
Right.
trying to capture and what the comp plan is trying to capture. What are we saying? Encourage, support?
I think encourage. Either one, I'm indifferent. What do you guys think?
I like encourage is a little,
Yes.
I like encourage. It says that we will try, and it's one of our objectives. It's not,
But it's not binding.
right.
Encourage? Everybody
Do
good?
you all agree with that one? And how does that then impact?
Could you read that back? What,
Just in, so the objective A, maintain the desirability of village neighborhoods, period. Encourage a variety of housing options for residents of all ages and income.
what does the board think? Simple enough, or do you think
I
that?
like encourage versus, I could go support or encourage, either way. So
Encourage is more active.
encourage is more active.
Support is more passive.
And then it's
No,
not.
I certainly prefer encourage to provide to that word, so,
Yeah.
Encourage.
yeah.
And so then, Frank, that changes the action item then, encourage a variety of housing options or,
I think there's something missing there.
okay,
There's something, another, encourage through zoning, or encourage through, did Dave Marshall say something about that in there after the encourage? He sounded like he had some good words. Encourage through, our zoning or our, the opportunity
He didn't
for.
like all ages and incomes either, and I thought we got rid of that.
I thought we did too in one of the last meetings before the hearing.
We talked about it, but I don't know whether we got rid of it or changed
You
it.
mean ages and ages and incomes, yeah. Would encourage a variety of housing options for residents of all ages and incomes. So that's one that Frank has solution for too.
Okay, for now, let's change it to encourage,
Okay.
and, you know, we'll ask Molly about that,
Okay.
if there's something more that needs to be. Okay, great. I know you want to go eat dinner.
No, I'm gonna run out for 5 minutes and I'll be back.
Okay.
Okay.
There, I'm really glad to hear that the crew doesn't want to change anything fundamentally. I think that's terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, we're copy edits.
Yeah.
There is one thing I do want to do.
Okay, what is it?
I don't think it fundamentally changes the meaning of it. I think there's an unintentional bias in here. It's on page 18.
18?
Yeah. And it's in discussing the demographic data.
Okay.
It's on page 18
Yeah.
in the lower right paragraph. And it says, this high rate of educational attainment translates to a higher average household income for the village relative to the county. And I really just want to take out the first part of that sentence, where it would read, Pittsburgh Village has a higher average household income relative to the county. There's no need to cast a judgment on people who don't go to college. So,
Well, and you've also, in the previous paragraph, just basically described what that sentence.
What the
that first part of
demographic
it
is.
said, So you don't need to say it again.
Right.
Saying this high. So you just want to change it to,
just change it to, there is there is a higher average
okay,
household income for the village relative to the county.
that's fine. I mean, it just said what that high rate of They just talked about the education.
Well, yeah, it talks about the education is higher,
Yeah,
and then it talks about the income.
yeah.
There's no need to say the income is higher because of the education.
I see. I'm fine with the, I don't think that changes the spirit. Joanna, do you feel like that changes the spirit?
No,
of what
I
it says?
agree, I agree. I kind of have a problem with the bold print.
The bold print.
Right,
Yeah, I actually thought we had her take those
I
out
thought
as
we
well,
did
so
too.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
note it in here.
Yeah.
So if you see there's a bold right in that
That's
paragraph.
on page
Just make that regular font. And then we're talking about just changing that
Yeah.
copy.
And didn't we take out the ratio of men and women? What does
I
that?
thought we did too,
It
because
doesn't
it,
have anything
To do with the price of tea in China.
yeah, and it's, yeah.
It's-
Are we going to change our services because there's a higher percentage of women?
No, we're gonna be smarter because of it.
And kinder.
Kinder.
Yeah.
Which page is that on, Joanne?
20 at the top left corner.
So do we want to note that for Dorothea?
I just wrote it down.
Okay, that's fine. We want to get rid of it?
Remove the ratio of men and women.
Yeah,
On the pie chart?
yeah.
No,
What,
it's
where?
not
Oh,
that
this part, top is,
Oh,
that you feel that's important to
Okay.
know? That's page 20. The meeting we had at the Spiegel Center, I thought we took that out of
Yep.
there, and maybe this doesn't have those last.
is there a reason why you don't want it in?
Joanne, we think the comp plan tried to take it out, but do you feel strongly about leaving it in or out?
I just think it's stating a fact.
Okay.
What would your objection be, that
I don't know why, what does that mean? What does it matter?
Yeah. What does it tell us?
No. It's not talking about housing or education or income or, we can leave it in, it's harmless, it's just, I thought it was.
Well, it's also categorizing people into two different categories. Only
Right,
they
right.
Ask other questions,
Right.
and I don't know, if, like, this is gonna be sitting on our shelf for,
Does that include children?
Right.
I don't know, I just thought it was superfluous, but it's really harmless.
it is hard, it's just taking up space, but maybe, so I don't feel strongly one way or the other. I think they put in stuff they put in comp plans all over,
Yeah.
and this was.
that's what I was thinking, they're just describing a community that's taking every aspect and
Okay,
painting a picture, I don't know.
okay. Wait, in or out?
Just the same as ages.
I was thinking the same thing. That's what I was gonna ask.
Kind of gives you a
Well, they do
Well-
talk about that next, you're right, so,
The ages matter to me because of a need for different kinds of housing. We talked a lot about in-law apartments.
Yeah.
As we have, and you look at and generally those are for an aging community. So I think that's okay to leave in there, because
Yeah.
that does literally affect
right,
the code, whereas gender doesn't.
that's fine.
But it could relate to services provided.
Did you just say Dorothea?
It could relate to services provided.
Such as what?
You could look at medical to shopping.
You mean the ages? or
No, the male.
Yeah.
Male versus female.
I think that you might draw conclusions. You might say, well, does that indicate single parents? Does that indicate women living alone? And, you know what I mean, what does that, if you're a marketer, what does that tell you? I mean, does it tell you anything or not? Or does it tell you anything about the type of housing that,
It's tough because it's not broken down by
Yeah.
age.
I don't know if you're a marketer or if you're looking at our comp plan because you want to put a business here, would that be helpful? I have no idea. Maybe we trust John and Molly of this one.
I think it's standard, you know, that this is what you do, you put
Yeah.
that, you put this,
Yeah.
you put this, you put that.
Right.
I don't know, what if we leave it in?
That's fine.
It's a very fair point, though.
It is taking up space, and maybe if they took it out, it would like mess up the page, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I do remember discussing some of these taking, we did take a bunch of these out, which they've already done, as a comp plan, but, okay, I don't really care. What do you guys, if you feel strongly, leave it in, let's leave it in.
It's information.
Yeah,
I think it's just information.
Okay, fair enough.
I have one more little
Go ahead,
tiny
Dan.
typo.
Because we did the typos before you guys.
Yeah, there's a little, I'm just looking for it. Page 11. This is so small. Page 11, in the list on the left, the very last one has an extra space before it. Doesn't line up. That's it. Can I tell you one thing I was really bummed out about, and I called Elisa about this because I know she wrote or did copy editing on it. The introduction is so, the prologue is so great, and it sounds like a hypothetical story. I so wanted the business traveler to be a woman.
It
Why
was,
did-
it was Tom.
It was
It was Tom Cummings.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what she told me. It's not a hypothetical.
Yeah.
It's actually,
I actually love
it's
it.
actually a person.
Love that he's the comp plan,
Yeah,
he's the chair.
yeah.
For artistic license,
Yes.
can we make it a woman?
Yeah. You have to
Why does
ask
the
Tom.
business traveler have to be a man?
Yeah, you could ask Tom if he could take it, just like, get permission. Page 21, the last paragraph on the left says the village's traffic concerns are largely created by the 20,000 plus vehicles traveling into and through the village each day. They changed that. I like this version better. Originally it was, made it sound like the village was causing its own traffic.
Okay.
So this makes it clear.
Right.
But I want to research this 20,000 plus number because I think Molly got that from me, saying in the Monroe Avenue traffic study, I know there are 20,000 cars a day that travel down Monroe Avenue. I don't know if it's higher than that go through the heart of our village. Because it would be really good if we could show that the 20,000 that are here, I don't know what the total count is in the heart of the village. We may not have that because the Monroe County, that traffic study ended at South Main Street. So it's not a big deal, but I actually think there are more cars than that, so I'm wondering if we have that. And the mayor would know the answer to that. All right.
All right, so we'll stay tuned, maybe might
Yeah,
have a more
I'll
updated
look
number.
that up and see, and we'll leave it like that. If it's, 20,000 is still a lot.
Yeah.
Those are the numbers that go in front of my house, but I think it's greater if you add the ones going north and south.
Right.
Okay, I'm beating a dead horse.
Did we note in the last, at the last meeting in our minutes, I don't know if you remember, that Bob said that he was going to provide new photographs to Molly for inclusion in the, because he wasn't happy with some of the
Yes, he
photographs.
did, he
were
went
photographs.
on a photo taking spree, he was from
Okay.
New Sharon, because I also requested some for the village house.
Okay, so I want to make
Yeah,
sure
he
that we get
posted a
that
ton
number.
on Facebook too, so. that-
Right, he was supposed to give me some for our website.
Okay, great.
I have one comment on page 45 that I'd like to talk about. This is, and it's number 8. Prohibit parking as the primary use on any property. The only thing that made me think was the RG&E right of way.
Any property, oh, that's a good point. Primary use, oh crap.
Because the primary use of that property, you could argue the primary use of it is some sort of passive, but the primary use on the RG&E right of way currently
And
is
we are
parking.
trying to get, I mean, that's gonna be.
Right.
Yeah, I think the spirit of this is to make sure that no one owns a parking lot, or
Right,
they're not
absolutely.
looking for a parking lot. So
Yeah.
how do we word it? Can we say except, or do we change prohibit?
I don't know about that, and it doesn't require village board.
Right, and it's not a binding law.
It's not, I think the spirit of it is we don't want a parking lot, we don't want someone opening up, hey, we got Bill's
Yeah.
parking here, or I don't own a building, I just own a parking lot, or this property has a bigger parking lot than the building, which would ruin our historic character. And all of this is covered by our
Code.
historic preservation
Yeah.
guidelines, our code, our LWRP, all sorts of things. So prohibit parking as the primary use of any.
Now, we have something like that right now with the parking lot behind Green.
For debts, yeah. Could we say with the exception of,
Previously done.
But look at the word primary. I'm sorry, Dorothy, did you say something?
I'm thinking unless you put a housing previously used as parking or previously designated as parking.
prohibit new,
I think the word, keyword is primary. So in other words, we're agreeing this,
yeah,
that's not the primary use of that piece of property.
True.
I think you could argue that the primary use of that piece of property are the businesses that she
Okay.
owns, which are great.
so then the same would be true for the RG&E property.
But that one, the primary use is parking.
Yeah.
Yes, the primary use of that property is parking, and it's not just for Breed and their businesses, because a lot of people use that who are in the village.
Right, but the primary use for the RG right of way is
Yeah, and,
parking.
and in exploring things, like, okay, so if we ended up with some central municipal parking, which would be very helpful, it would help our walkability, help our businesses, all of that stuff. So this, how do we capture the spirit of this without tying our hands with,
I mean, you could literally say, except the current RG right of way.
okay.
It's a very unusual
It is.
circumstance.
It is,
There's
and it's
not any
actually going to enhance all of the things that are in here. By getting that, we're supporting this whole plan because we're providing,
You could
Supporting
say
businesses.
exclusive of, and then cite those two properties.
okay. But then what if something else pops up that's like the RG&E thing that would enhance our businesses?
It's not law, it's just recommended.
How about discourage parking? How about if we, instead of saying prohibit parking, how about if we say discourage or,
I like prohibit
all
though.
right, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
just with exceptions.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So what do you want to change it to? Someone else wordsmith that and make sure Joanne likes it.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yes,
Okay.
I like to keep that.
It retains the spirit of it. We don't
Yeah.
want a parking lot,
Right.
except
Is
for these.
Breed parking lot owned by the town?
No.
Breed owns it.
So do you want to say with the exception of the existing,
Already existing,
with the exception of the existing facilities identified as the RG&E right away and the, I don't know what you call the other one, because
or debts, yeah, what is it?
it's not the Burdette parking lot.
But why do we even have to talk about that? Because the primary use of that piece of property is the retail. That's all owned by the same people,
But
right?
it's parking for the retail, so we're saying,
But,
this is just a
yeah.
place to park your car versus if you're parking your car to then go to a local business.
Think about what the spirit of what that is saying. What is it that they were trying to prohibit?
Make sure
That
you
is-
have a bunch of parking lots.
Somebody buying a piece of property and turning it into a parking lot.
Yeah,
Right.
So that's what you're trying to prohibit.
right.
You're not prohibiting what already exists,
So maybe put the.
unless I'm not understanding this correctly.
Maybe put the word new.
yeah, I think that captures it, yeah.
Because I think they're okay with current.
Prohibit parking. Where would you put it? New parking as a parking?
Future,
New permitted new parking as the primary use of any property.
Does that make RG&E okay?
'Cause that's, oh, there's already parking on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that.
As the new primary use.
Yes, there you go.
Right,
Prohibit parking as the new primary use.
right.
as a new primary use, not the prohibit parking as a new primary use of any property. Are we happy with that?
Yep.
As a new, okay.
So we got wording for that, did we change that? or-
Yeah, we can. Okay, well, all right. I make a motion that we change the word.
Second.
Number 8, under B, foster community culture. Number 8. I make a motion that we change the primary use to new primary use.
As a new
A,
New.
As a new primary use.
second.
All right.
Does anyone second that?
Yeah, Dave
Okay.
seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great.
Did we take a motion on the one that we changed on encouraged, and we better go back and do that real quick?
Yeah, you did.
Encouraged, the one on,
Okay.
what page was that?
31.
Page 11?
30.
30.
Okay, great.
We need to make a motion.
Okay, why don't we do that?
Okay, I make a motion to amend the objective A on page 33 to read, encourage a variety of housing options for residents of all ages and incomes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then do we need to make one that I changed in the demographics?
We need to do it on that same page on D, because you did it.
The typo?
Entrepreneurs 2?
Yeah.
Do we have to do a motion for that one, even though it's a
We should,
grammatical
because
correction?
we're changing the document that has been provided to us, so any changes that we make.
So I'll make a motion on the D, changing the word to the word in to the word to.
Right.
So I'll make a motion on D.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then the other one I want to make a motion on is on page 18.
All right.
That will be, yeah, so that will, the proposal is it will read, it has a higher average household, there is a higher average household income for the village relative to the county.
Yes, that's what we talked about. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And do we have to change the bold, the thing we said on page 18, recommending taking the bold text out of that? Do we need to? Okay,
Second?
okay. The bold text that we talked about?
Aye.
Aye.
Did you make a motion at the end of your meeting?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering, for all of
To
these?
do all the changes. Thank you, efficient person.
Okay. Okay, how
You
do you
guys
guys
do
do
it,
it?
otherwise.
Yeah.
We'll save you a lot of.
Motion.
I don't know. I'm
It's
following
not
that.
easier
You
to do all at
guys
once,
do
if
it.
you're only breathing as you go along. I can
Okay.
get it.
All right, let's do that. No,
Great.
Sarah, that was
Thank
a lot of
you.
time. Okay.
You really don't want minutes like that.
If Tom agrees to change it to her in the story, are we all comfortable changing it to her?
Ryan, that's.
It's a warmer introduction.
I know, it'll be awesome, and setting her foot forward.
There was something I noticed in this, this is page 19, this is really not a big deal. It's talking about the demographic, the count of residents, and it says 1699 as of 2017, and the numbers in the body don't match up to that. It's 1455, I'm sorry, 13, oh no, it's 2010, never mind. Got it.
Okay.
That was all I have.
I'm not sure about the wording. Do you mind if I just chime in?
Sure.
No, go ahead. I mean, no, yes. Please chime in. Yes, you are.
Page 35, page 35, C4. It doesn't sound right.
Complete a study of assessment of parks? Oh, yeah, no, that doesn't sound right.
Does it mean or assessment?
Complete?
And assessment.
Yeah, complete an assessment is what I'd say, of parks and green spaces within the
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good, yeah, just take out complete an assessment.
Okay.
Agreed, nice catch. You have a hard stop at 6:30, Frank?
No.
I'm pretty much done.
Let's see. So I looked at the green space map to make sure it didn't conflict with the new plan that the town's discussing, that,
Oh, okay.
and it looks fine. I had that written down, but good.
Page 34, I think that this was the one that Frank was asking about. And that is, again, the use of the word provide a variety of housing options. So I think we want to change it there as well
To
as,
encourage or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So that's page 34, A, action item
A1.
1.
yeah, A1. As you pointed out, Frank, number 2, you questioned expanding the types of residential and commercial uses permitted in mixed-use areas. I think when we were talking about the code changes, I think that is reflected in our code as we talked about mixed use and what would be permitted, and we determined that some areas, residential areas, present residential areas, would be protected. We're not talking about established residential neighborhoods. We're talking about, as it's indicated on the map,
Village Green.
that it allows for an expansion of uses in those districts. Not in the residential, the established residential neighborhoods.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, Village Green is a good example of that, if something were to change there. It would be, yeah, which is on the map, so there's a section for that.
Yep. Provide also appears in the header, in CA, it's right
Yeah, I
there.
see that.
Yeah, so change that also to encourage. It's in the header as well,
Yeah.
as the body, so it's right there.
Yeah.
Do you like providing bullet 4 there?
I was just looking at that. What's the second word? I got a note over it, I can't see it. Provide.
Relief for kind of
yeah,
protection.
it's tricky, that word, provide, because
Yeah.
that's something that we necessarily, what kind of relief are we supposed to write them a check? I mean, I don't understand. We're providing relief in what way?
Right, or is it support relief? Is that a good?
Haven't we already done that?
I think it needs more information. If you're providing relief in the form of a variance,
Right.
then that's what it needs to say. I don't understand what the,
I mean, it is on, it says ongoing and existing, so we're already doing it, I'm just continuing it. Continue.
I just think I would like more information there. In other words, if we're providing relief, what is the relief we're providing? Is it by variance? Is it by, what is it? Special use? What are we providing? How are we providing it?
Yeah, my note to myself was, give me an example.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good, okay.
I don't
What do
remember.
you mean by that?
And are some of these left vague on purpose because we want the spirit of it captured, but not the specificity?
Specific.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, that might have been one of them where
So are you saying, indicating that you do not have a problem with the word?
provide, no, I don't like it here either. But I don't need more specifics on relief for and protection of, because I think that can come in various ways. And this isn't a plan to establish that, it's just saying that we hope to continue relief for and protection of the character of non-conforming residential properties.
How about continue to provide?
Right.
Because that's what,
Although
if it's ongoing. then-
yeah, it is ongoing, so
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. Continue to support, do you want to soften it to a different word?
I don't think support is the right word either.
Okay.
I want to know what it is that we're doing. What is the village doing presently?
Okay.
Which deals with non-conforming single-family residential properties
That predate.
that predate the
Yeah.
establishment of zoning regulations.
So we need more information on this one.
I almost want to say continue, somehow say continue. Why, is the word relief?
Yeah, what do you mean by relief?
Peter, you were on the comp plan committee too, right?
Correct.
Do you have your copy with you?
I do not, I could have, go up to the car. and-
Maybe
and get
Joanne
it.
would share with you.
What page I lost?
34, A.
Number 4.
Right.
It says provide the village, in other words, they're saying that the village will provide relief and protection.
Yep. And what is your question?
Well, I had a question because I'm wondering what it is that the village is providing. I'd like a little bit more specific information about what they're supposed to be providing in the way of relief. Are they providing money? What are they providing?
Oh, I see, Well, again, it's a question of intent more than anything else. So what is the intent
Right.
of the paragraph? The intent of the paragraph, I think, was basically to say that the Comprehensive Planning Committee acknowledges that there are many properties that are non-conforming currently. And that,
Pre-existing non-conforming,
well,
no?
pardon?
Is the continuation of a pre-existing non-conforming use?
Right, could be,
Accepted.
right. But it's not just use. I mean, there are pre-existing non-conforming properties that really represent the majority of the village. So that the size of many lots are now substandard,
Substandard.
right? So it's not the use necessarily. There are a number of things that are non-conforming. And what I think the intent of this was, and I mean, I can't speak for the committee, I don't know why I'm doing this actually, but the intent, I think, was to acknowledge the fact that they exist, and that with regard to relief, they aren't talking about any contribution from the village other than protection, I guess, for the uses that exist.
Is there another way to say what you just said? Because I think that's more clear to me than what this says.
Well, you could say what I said.
Well, you could say it with continue to protect the character of non-conforming. Continue to protect.
Right, relief, I think, is an important word in some respects, though, because it represents acknowledgement that it exists.
That's
Right.
the word.
And, pardon?
That's the word that we want to use, I think. We're acknowledging that they exist.
And therefore, by relief, that is, they are protected, I suppose, in some respect, but not subject to challenge. So in other words, I mean, I conforming lot.
Mhm.
But that's very unusual going up and down where I am, right? Because a conforming lot where I am would have to have 100 feet of frontage. And we have, you know, like 180 on one side and 190 on another, you know? But most of the houses, for example, down on where you live, right, on Mountain,
Right,
they'll have less than 75 feet. They won't have 40 feet.
right, they're all non-conforming,
Right,
pre-existing
they're all
non-conforming.
non-conforming. So relief means, in my mind anyway, that is not only protection, but from protection from the zoning code, but relief from challenge. That's what I think they're trying to say.
Relief from challenge.
You understand
of
what
the zoning code.
that, you get where I'm coming from?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
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 I'm just thinking of how to word it. Because we didn't want relief to sound like monetary relief.
Yeah,
Right.
no.
But we didn't say, it doesn't say monetary relief.
No, but that's how that's where
You
you
could
were
lean
taking
more.
it, yeah.
And I didn't take it as monetary relief, I took it as like you will be subject, penalized.
Yeah.
Relief
To challenge.
from, if you're excused from, so,
Right.
I don't know that we need,
Acceptance?
So do we want, well, how about acknowledge and protect the character of non-conforming single-family residential properties that predate the establishment of zoning regulations?
I heard Peter say relief was.
So we acknowledge
No?
and we protect.
Well, again, and I'm not,
I know, you can't speak.
what do you want me to do, rewrite it? No,
No.
that's your job.
Yeah.
Right? But that, I think,
That's the spirit of it.
that's the intent.
Right.
That's what I want to know with the intent, thank you.
And what I heard is that the relief is an important piece of the intent.
Okay.
So, even if we said acknowledge, I don't.
Is there a missing clause that essentially says, and what you were saying, which is, and don't make the current laws applicable?
Could you say?
The
Well,
current
that's-
zoning.
So that's the rationale for relief.
Right,
Right?
yeah,
Okay,
That's the rationale for the word relief.
to specify what it is.
it's zoning relief,
Exactly.
yeah.
So why don't you say provide relief from,
Acknowledge and protect the existing character. Is that better?
But we don't have the relief.
Acknowledge and protect the existing character of non-conforming blah, blah, blah.
So Frank, your house may in fact sit too close to the property line of the house adjacent to you on Belleville. Yet it may be less than is dictated in the zoning ordinance. So does that mean that you have to take off the back of your house, or they have to take off the back of that house? No, it's relief from those things. Relief from that kind of challenge.
Zoning challenge.
That's the intent.
Well, that's what we should say then.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Relief from zoning challenge.
Well,
But that's what
the
it
challenge
says.
with that, and I thought about that as well, is putting the word zoning in there. The challenge with that makes it, if you put the word zoning in there, it sounds like you could supersede whatever the zoning is in that area. And I could open a convenience store at my home,
I think it,
which it's not zoned for.
Right, so,
Right.
yeah.
yeah.
Relief from challenge, I think, is probably,
Okay, sufficient, all right.
but not relief from the zoning code.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
I see, okay. Got it.
There's one spot where our house is more than, or is less than 10 feet from the lot line.
Is that the code, 10 feet?
And we had to get a variance for that.
There you go.
And that's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
We own up to 1 foot from the adjacent properties on both sides. Those properties they have 1 foot of setback. We own to that spot on both sides.
So there are a lot of situations like
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, that's just our house.
I don't have any issue leaving it exactly the way it is now that we, I mean,
Now that we understand.
well, we understand the intent, and it sounds like relief is necessary, protection is necessary. It already says ongoing, so I don't know that it says ongoing, the existing, and the time frame. So if we add continue to provide it's sort of redundant. So now that we
You
know the
might-
spirit.
You might, relief, and then you might add pre-existing. Relief from, and you could add, does pre-existing exist in that paragraph?
Yeah,
Yeah.
non-conforming single, yeah, predate, it's already in there. Would you feel better if there was non-monetary in there?
I don't read it as monetary.
Okay.
Unless it says monetary relief can mean all sorts of things. It means we come and give you, I mean, it means all sorts, I don't read it as monetary. But maybe you all do if you need non-monetary.
Well, it's really not us, it's just somebody, let us say in the future, who comes and here it is, and look, it says right in your comprehensive,
Yeah.
and prove it
Then I should
doesn't
get
mean
relief,
that.
yeah.
Prove it.
I don't think that there's any place in that plan that you'll see, we talk about, any monetary issue.
Right.
Okay.
So
So,
that, again, that's the job of the village board to determine.
so you're saying that you're happy with it as it reads?
Might be fun.
Frank, what do you say?
About,
What we've been discussing, did you want to make any changes to it? Renee is happy with it as it reads.
I'm not happy with, not with the way it reads.
What would you like it to say?
I would like it to say acknowledge.
If you can get acknowledge in there and leave relief in, I think relief's an important piece of this.
Wait a minute.
Sounds like.
Acknowledge and protect the character.
Okay. But
That's
there's,
what I would do.
you would leave out relief, but we've just heard that relief is an important piece
I
of
would
this.
leave out relief.
No, I think somehow really needs to be in there, but I don't.
So the biggest, so there are a few big items in here. The biggest of all are area variances, which you got. You got an area variance for your 1 foot or 10 feet or whatever it was, right? You got an area variance for that. So, but there are innumerable properties, including those of my neighbors, who would then have to come and get area variances because they only have a 1 foot setback.
Right.
So should I be able to go and challenge the existence of these houses? Should I be able to go up and say, hey, I'm sorry, you have to take down your house because you don't have the setback from my lot line? That's the relief issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable, you convinced me. Relief.
That's unbelievable. I don't think I could convince you of anything,
We're both Yankees fans.
which is hard for me to believe, but I'll take it.
He's the been high for him, you guys.
Well, okay, so we're still hung up on the word relief?
I'm not hung
I'm
up
not.
on it. I like the word relief.
You're not?
It
No.
captures the spirit of the intent.
I'm flexible, I can take that.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
All right.
I did a quick scan of the word provide throughout the document. It's in here a lot. It's
Okay.
not in here though in the spirit of provide housing
Okay,
like we just changed. It's more like this idea provides a good,
okay.
you know, but it's worth a full scan. There were a lot of examples of it and I wanted to listen. But yeah, we should do a scan on it to make sure we're not making promises.
Right.
In addition, just along the same vein that I don't know if it applies in here, in our code, I do not believe we had a definition of the word historic. And the word historic pops up everywhere through our comp plan and through our code. And so we need a definition for the word historic or something. Okay,
There's lots of.
what are we
definitions.
calling historic?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I know Frank has to leave, and so I am proposing that we
I
adjourn.
got 10 more minutes,
Frank.
I'm fine.
What happened?
No, I say,
They got 10 minutes?
I got 10 more minutes, I have to leave at 7.
Okay. I'm wondering if the rest of the board would be amenable to adjourning at 7 PM when Frank has to leave.
I
Okay.
don't have anything else. you guys have anything else?
Oh, and here,
Yeah. That we didn't talk about that. Peter, while they're thinking, I'll catch you up, that one of the only changes we made was in talking about, the phrase it uses is provide more various types of housing, and we can't provide that, so it's like support, enable, I think we changed it
to encourage.
encourage. So we didn't change the tenor, we didn't change the tenor of it, we just changed the wording. That was kind of the biggest change that we made. The rest of it was word edits.
I have a question on page 32, the second action item.
32?
30, oh, I'm sorry, 36?
36.
Yep. Ensure local zoning regulations permit non-retail based home occupations for entrepreneurs and administrative tech industry or service professionals. It's very specific.
Et cetera. Do you want an et cetera, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's very specific.
Yeah.
We want to, I was trying to figure out if it's reflected in our changes that are coming up in the update, because it's saying zoning regulations. So is this one of the items that's in our current code?
It is.
Okay. And is it worded the same way? Home, retail-based home occupations for entrepreneurs, administrative tech industry, or service professionals. Are we missing anything, and does it match up with what we've put in the code?
I don't remember
Okay.
what the wording is around
Okay.
it.
I
It just
know
says
that-
that it's allowed, you're allowed to work from home
Right.
in a non-retail capacity,
That we want-
where you're not expecting visitors,
Yeah,
an abundance of visitors such as a doctor's office.
okay. I just wanted to make sure those two.
I don't know if that second line is needed. You could just end it, non-retail based
Non-retail.
home occupations.
Yeah, because that's what I'm getting hung up on, is this administrative tech industry or service.
Right.
Like, yeah, just home-based occupations, period. It's not just entrepreneurs, it's everybody. I don't know, what do you think for that one? Just
Service is so general though that
Yeah.
it could work.
Okay,
Type 1.
I just want, again, I wanted to get some clarity on that, so I don't care if we leave it, I just want to make sure we're making it so specific that somebody couldn't
Yeah.
do some other sort of home occupation.
Or you put the word et cetera in there.
Attached.
Okay.
And that is number 5, that would be an action item for the village board,
Right,
to develop an incentive program.
right.
I don't know what would be within our purview, within our jurisdiction regarding incentive programs. I mean, we're talking about reducing their taxes, I'm not quite sure
I don't think
that we have that
I'm thinking of the capability.
ability.
Could we say support, or,
I mean, it's worth having a conversation about.
yeah,
Of what we
Yes,
can do from it, and an incentive doesn't have to be only financial.
right. But it's also not, it's saying local partners would be businesses and community groups, commercial town owners, commercial property owners in town, so it almost makes it sound like it doesn't have to be necessarily a village board action. I was surprised, this is one of the ones I was surprised to see.
I just wondered what it says that the village board plays a role, but I don't know what role they play.
Right,
So, it sounds more like something a landlord and the business community would create, like a chamber of commerce or
yeah,
similar. I don't know what this board could provide in the way of incentives without it being a gift. I mean, it's tax relief, I'm not certain.
You know, if
you took again.
Maybe
you
there's
took the
something
word
I don't know.
incentive out, if you took the word incentive out, I'm sorry, you could still honor the request. So to develop a program for commercial property owners to help reduce presence of vacant space. And that program could be simply, we're publicizing that there is vacant space.
Partnering with.
What's that?
Maybe we can do that.
And get the intent of it.
Yeah,
How can the
yeah.
board help to fill space?
Is it support an incentive
Partner
or, how about pursue, what if we take village board action out of that? What, pursue an incentive program for commercial properties and owners? I don't know. Never mind. I was thinking if we take out the village board action, that would mean that it would be a community partnered.
The only thing I would
Program,
think
and how
of is
we-
a grant program that comes in and redoes the facades and helps, clean up your main street. That would help reduce vacancy, but normally that is an agency. You know what I'm saying?
Who has the ability to remove this village board action piece?
Well, we can. We do. We can suggest
That would be the question, and I would like that question answered. Let's talk about, if that changes, that the yes piece, I would give it.
Right, that's what I was thinking too. Does that take care of the issue? We're not saying this has to be an official board.
Yeah, that's an action item, and this board needs to develop an incentive for
Right,
it.
and I don't know that we can, it doesn't sound like we can.
Right.
So we're suggesting changing number 5, the action item, under village board action item to no,
To know.
doesn't require. And we can leave the local partner the exact same, business and community groups, commercial property owners, town. Is that what we're saying? Does that take care of the issue of requiring us to develop a program?
That's correct.
Which we think we're not allowed to do.
That's correct.
Okay, all right. So, okay. We don't need to go till the end.
Or to know. Okay. Anyone have anything else?
No.
I have one,
Sure.
on page 67, supplemental plans. I think there is a village complete streets.
Yeah, I made that suggestion.
Oh, okay.
Yep, it's in the notes. Complete streets policy,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Yeah.
suggested adding that to the end.
Real quick, I'm sorry.
What's
On
that?
page 36, item 7, the registered residential and commercial rental properties. It's saying it's not a village board action, but I find that hard to believe if we're doing code compliance.
What, you said page 37?
36.
Oh, 36,
That's
okay.
36, item 7.
Oh, item 7.
Parts of that do require, because it's employees. work.
Yeah, we talked about that. It says that it's not a, it says no here, that we're not doing that.
But it's got the clerk's office, it's got the CO, it's got
Oh, clerk.
the code enforcement officer, ED and ZBA.
Yeah, so I see what you're saying. It would require oversight
Yeah.
by necessity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The board is involved in working on it.
So then is that the same as number 4? Is any time the clerk, the CEO, et cetera, is that always going to require? There will be a lot of cases of that.
Yeah, we always end up, if we change a form, usually we get a board approval.
Yeah.
I don't know the thought of how you're.
Yeah.
Again, the intent was to create, when it says create a registry. So if someone came in here and they wanted to have a boxing club, they could come in here and there would be a registry of vacant spaces and what could be done in those vacant spaces. They're just talking about a list, they aren't talking about anything else. So these spaces exist as far as the landlords have let us know, right? And this is the zoning in that area. That's all. So if somebody showed up here, that's all. Now, whether or not that's a good idea, I don't know, but most people have no idea what they can do anyway in the village. No idea.
Still a directive from the village board to create that list.
What if someone else does it? Another
Well,
department.
Might this be an
Not-
option for
That's
for that?
it. So I'm hearing a very interesting thing here. So the village is you are interpreting the village as being the village board. And that's That's,
Well, you put down to me.
that's a, I mean, so that's a, I don't think that we ever really interpreted it that way.
The only
But that's
reason
okay.
I'm seeing it here in this one is you're saying code compliance. And regular, facilitate regular inspections. That's definitely an action of the village office.
Yeah,
And we receive our direction through the board, and the board of trustees establish the duties and whatever the employees do. So it is kind of linked in that case scenario, because they'll set the fee schedule or anything attached to those actions. So it does require a village board action.
I want to sleep on this, because I get the point, though, that if you're going to be utilizing village office staff resources,
Correct.
does it have to be approved?
That's the only
Does
reason.
it need board involvement necessarily?
You put
But I also
that-
understand that point. I just want to sleep on it.
Yeah, action versus.
So that's a question for Jeff, actually. What I think?
Probably would be it. I mean, if it involves village staff, to me, the answer to the village board. So that's the only reason I would bring up that it might require an action by the board, because we would come to you for guidance. Or I would take it to you, either way, the staff member.
It's a fair question. I don't know the answer.
Me, I just want to make sure.
Do we want to make a motion to approve all of the changes that we
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Also, Dan, we discussed earlier, Monday, August 7th, and because of time constraints, we made it 5 to 6:30, understanding that you might come.
Mondays are tough for me.
Well,
Monday and Wednesday.
Tuesday wasn't working for Renee.
And Frank's not going to be here either.
So this is August 5th. Could we go a little later?
On Monday,
I really can't get here much before.
Here's the reason why. The historic preservation board meets at 7. And so we were trying to meet ahead of that. It's not critical, I
I'll
think
get here.
we're just doing but we'll just do the best that we can.
So this
5 to 6:30.
Monday the 5th.
Yes, and then on August, the 12th, did we say, or 13th?
13.
Thank you, code review, 5:30 to 7.
Okay, hold on. So the 5th is 5:30 to 7?
Yeah.
Or 5 to 7?
5:30 to 7.
5 to 6:30.
Yeah, the only reason is because the historic preservation board
Yep.
started meeting out of that.
Okay, so that's on Monday, August 5th, and what's the next one?
8:13, 5:30 to 7.
8:13, 5:30 to 7. I'm out of town. That's why we moved the meeting to the,
Right, so we can still do a code. meeting.
Right, I was sure.
but I'm not there on the 13th.
And the one, did you say, the one next week on Monday, if we don't have anything from the planning board, we'll cancel it.
Okay.
We'll know by Friday. If we don't get anything from them, we don't have anything to review.
They have a bunch of meetings this week.
Yeah.
So I would expect we'll get something from them.
So I made a motion to adjourn, right?
Yep.
Make